Anyway, then we went to Village Winery, which was the place that had been recommended to us by the Ducaney lady. And it was completely different from any of the other wineries that we had been, especially in comparison to Sunset Winery, which had, like, stage lighting and vaulted ceilings and, you know, freaking supermodels as their wine tasters, their wine people. This was like a guy with a couple of barrels with a piece of plywood board, you know, for his bar. Not really, but it was just him. It was very plain and simple.
Very rustic.
Very rustic. But he was the only one that had a sort of a fruit wine, which is the elderberry wine. And he also had an apple wine. And he poured us a glass of the elderberry sparkling, which was non-alcoholic, and then mixed it with the apple wine, which was very tasty. So we ended up getting a bottle of each. But leads me to ask, why don't you just mix them that way to begin with? But then it's because he can't sell you 2 bottles. So, but overall, it was pretty enjoyable. And they had like these weird looking animals in the pasture next to it. I have no idea what they were. They looked like, I don't know, albino bison or something. They were really bizarre.
Miniature albino bison.
No, they were pretty big though. They were pretty big. Anyway.
It was an alpaca farm.
They were not alpacas though. They were way too big to be alpacas.
Alright, fair enough.
They're too broad.
Too broad?
They're really wide.
How wide were they?
About as wide as your mom.
Oh, this is going on YouTube. Alright, next.
Anyway, this next bottle is from room service that Brian ordered for us. The champagne and chocolate covered strawberries. Why do we still have the bottle, you ask? Because they gave us 2 bottles. And they gave us 2 bottles because instead of being in our room, as Brian had requested, when we arrived at 6, we didn't get it till about 11:30 that night.
Midnight, maybe, yeah.
So,
So they comped a bottle.
They comped a bottle because they'd already charged us for the other bottle. But other than the hotel being a bunch of incompetent people.
Man, the hotel was bad at every turn.
Yeah, hotels kind of failed at every turn. Other than that,
our key cards were only set to open the door to our hotel room once a piece and then be gone. He even told us that when we went down, like, we can't get into our room. He was like, oh, here, they're set up for another once a piece. Oh, thanks.
Like, I don't even understand why that would be a feeture. Like, why would you
Why
be
is
able
that a
to do
feature?
that?
Why? If you had told me that, I would ask for 6 room keys.
So, the thing that kind of sucked about it is that we waited around the hotel room for about half an hour to an hour before we even called and asked about it. And then it was about another half hour before they called us back and told us that they were, you know, working on it. And then we waited for about another half hour. And then we just decided, you know what, we're hungry, let's just go get dinner. And then I couldn't decide where we wanted to eat for a while. And by the time we got back to the hotel room, it was pretty late. And still no strawberries or champagne. And then we called them at this point, 10:30?
Yeah.
And they said they were still melting the chocolate after like 4 hours. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. So then they finally delivered it, and it was good.
While we were out, yeah, we finally left to go do some sightseeing because we weren't going to waste all our time.
Oh yeah, then we went out to the Jefferson Memorial, and when we came back at like 11:30, it was in our room. Yep. So that was our story.
Yep. But the hotel, let's see, what did they do? They lost our car when we wanted to drive down to the wash.
We had to valet the car when you got there.
They couldn't find the car.
They couldn't find it. And then it turns out, like, Brian, we kind of, like, peeked around the corner and, like, hit the unlock button and we could see it
from
where we were standing.
It was, like, really close.
So that was pretty obnoxious.
That took 20 minutes.
And they set the keys to only work once.
And then they didn't have any of the stuff that I'd ordered together, and they screwed that up. And then, even the next day, we pre-ordered breakfast in our room since we had to be at our conference at 7.
I should be filming you when you say that stuff when you're talking.
And it was late. It was very late, and I had to call, and they were
It
like,
was
"Oh
like
yeah,
45
yeah,
minutes
we're
late.
coming, we're coming." And then, like, as soon as I called, they were there in like 5 minutes. But I was very, very annoyed. And then we had to go to our conference. And then what happened, Lise? And then the conference, the AV guy was horrible.
Terrible.
Horrible.
He was so terrible. Like
some of the presentations were
were
cut
cut
off
off.
on the screen, like they
you
were
can
only
see
half
that
on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the AV, like the actual mic was really bad.
Yeah.
And like a lot of times when, like a couple times, the presenter would like start to play something that had volume to it, like they would play a slideshow or something, and every single time the volume wasn't turned on. Like if I was the AV guy after the first time, I'm pretty sure I would make sure that this volume was on from then on.
Yep.
But he didn't. So that was pretty terrible.
He was reading a newspaper most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the program was really good.
That program was good.
So the trip was
awesome.
worth it, even though it was very hard to drive back, like through the middle of the night to get back here and go to work early the next morning.
Yeah.
So. But this one right here did a good job. She was on the trip with us, and she's a good road trip companion. Sitting, attached to her seatbelt harness in the back. She's just quiet and hangs out, and then likes to come out for a little walk when we stop.
And they loved her a lot at the Pets Hotel. And they gave her all kinds of belly rubs.
She heard the word belly rubs and was like, "Wait, are they talking about me?"
Belly rub? You need a belly rub? I'm talking to you. Good puppy.
Cutie. All right, Lise. We're signing off. That was the story of our trip for posterity.